Right, so the final topic in coastal processes is humans and the coastline, and how human interactions and how human activities can interfere with the coastal processes. And in general, the main coastal process that humans are trying to interfere with is coastal erosion, because they're trying to prevent it. Um, it's a huge problem along the coastline of Ireland, as it is in many other countries, particularly with climate change. Because with climate change, two things are happening to increase coastal erosion. One, there's more storms, there's a higher frequency of storms. During storms, there's higher energy, more destructive waves, so bigger chunks of the coastline are lost. And secondly, there are rising sea levels, so this will also increase the erosive power of the waves. An estimated 1,500 kilometres of coastline is at risk from erosion every year, and we lose about a metre of our coastline every year. The reason why we care about it is because if we're losing chunks of our coastline, then we're also losing chunks of infrastructure along the coast, so roads, railways, caravan parks, hotels, because many of our coastal areas tend to be touristy areas. Then we want to try and protect them. And the problem is not going to go away. So we have to be able to try and slow down or prevent coastal erosion. And this is the main example of how humans interfere with coastal processes. So, coastal protection is basically humans trying to prevent erosion from happening. And this falls into two different categories: soft methods and hard methods. The soft methods are trying to encourage, sorry, it's late, trying to encourage deposition rather than just stopping erosion. They tend to be a bit more expensive, but they're more environmentally friendly. And what they involve is trying to encourage deposition along the coast, trying to encourage beaches to stay where they are, trying to encourage sand dunes to stay where they are, because beaches and sand dunes are basically the best defence against coastal erosion, because they get in the way of the sea and the coastline. Hard methods then tend to be permanent structures that are built along the coast, and their main aim is to stop the power of the waves. So we need to go through each of these methods and look at different ways of implementing them. So one of the soft methods is building things like these fences along the dunes. And if you remember when we talked about the formation of dunes, we said they happen because the wind blows the sand on shore, like so. And if there's an obstacle in the way of the wind, then it will deposit the sand. So by building something like these structures here, it's hoped that deposition builds up over them, and in years to come the sand dune will just be up over them and we won't be able to see them anymore. And so protecting sand dunes is very important. Another way sand dunes can be protected is by planting marram grass. So we talked about marram grass in terms of it holding the sand dunes together. I showed you images of the very long root systems. So marram grass, that's spiky grass, is planted in the dunes, like so. The bit that you don't see, its roots go all the way down and they cling on to the sand and they prevent the sand dune from moving. Another thing that can happen is that mats can be used, and they are basically just, I'm kind of running out of space here, they're just placed at the base, and again they trap the sand. A good example of where sand dune management happens is at Curracloe Beach, one of my favourite beaches in Ireland, in Wexford. And they're trying to discourage people from walking through the dunes, so they've put down wooden pathways, because if people walk through the dunes it tends to cause the dunes to erode, and they have planted grass and shrubs there as well. Okay, the second soft method is called beach nourishment, and this basically just involves pumping sand onto the shore. This happens a lot in beaches in Spain and Portugal, in the Costa del Sol, where their beaches are basically just being washed away, but because they depend so much on tourism, they need the beaches to stay. So it's used on beaches where erosion is happening. And you remember we talked about sandbars. So if you have a look here, you've got this kind of pipe and this pipe is going out. So out at sea here there's a sandbar, so there's a build up of sand beneath the ocean. You can't see it, it's just shallower water. And the way this works is that the pipe goes all the way out here and it pumps the sand back on shore. So this is where the sand is being pumped back onto the beach. Then normally what happens, and you don't see this, is that a bulldozer comes very early in the morning and it spreads the sand up and down the beach so that it's evenly spread. And this occurs in Rosslare, where about, let's look at my notes here, 160,000 metres square of sand is being taken to be put back on the beach. The only problem with this is it's very expensive, and it's not permanent, so this has to happen over and over again in order to protect the beach. So it's not a great long-term solution because of the cost of it. Right, this, let me just check something here. Okay, so we're now moving on. There are the two soft methods. These are the hard methods. So hard methods basically aim to combat the power of the sea and to protect the sea, the coast, from erosion, and it involves building permanent structures. And the first one of those are groins. And groins are any structures that are built at right angles to the sea. So here's the sea, it's going out at a right angle. What their job to do is to prevent sand being moved off a beach by longshore drift. So they act as obstacles to longshore drift. That's the first thing that they do. So if longshore drift was moving in this direction, then it would meet this obstacle here and it would drop the sand, and it would prevent the sand being moved from this part of the coast further on down the coast. Again, this is important for tourist areas where they don't want to lose their beaches and they don't want to lose their tourist income, right, because they've developed tourist infrastructure there. Second thing that groins do is they actually break the power of the waves. So the wave will break out here because there's an obstacle rather than breaking further in. So it reduces the power of the wave, which means that they're more likely to deposit than erode. The only problem with them then is that if they're keeping all of the material here, areas further down the coast are starved of beach material. And this is why some of them have gaps in them to allow some sediment through. Oh, here, those drones. Hang on, let me get rid of this. And let me go back in here. Okay, so that's an example of a wooden groin. This is an example of a concrete groin. Very obviously here, these two people look like they've just passed it on the beach, but they're not. Very obviously here you can tell that the direction of longshore drift is this way, because there's a massive build-up of material on this side of the groin. So in this section here, you'll see there's another groin here. The material on this section is just moved from here to here. So it's not brought into the next section. And then it can be raked evenly back over the beach. In this section here, the material is moved from here down until the next groin. So groins can keep the material on the particular beach in different sections. But like I say, they can be problematic because somewhere further down the coast isn't getting the material that it should get. I'm not going to play that. So usually groins would be, there'd be multiple amounts of them, not just one or two. So there'd be several of them along a beach. Basically it stops that beach from washing away, because this section here will keep the sand, this section here, this section here. So if you place them along the length of the beach, then the sand will remain on that beach. Next one are seawalls, and these are fairly obvious ones, and these are all around the coast of Ireland. So these are just here to break the power of the waves. So you'll see the sea cliffs down here. If there's walls in front of them, the waves will break at the seawall rather than at the coast, and it won't remove material. Why do I keep drawing? Okay, let's scooch back to there. Another thing about seawalls is that they often have, the top of them is often curved, and I'm going to draw again, hopefully not regret it. So what happens here is when the wave breaks, okay, so if you can imagine the wave coming up over the steps, it breaks, then the wave is forced back out. And when the next wave comes in, this wave here hits this wave here, and it forces it to break, therefore reducing the power. Okay, so the waves are breaking back onto the next incoming waves. So it's double fold. The seawall will protect the coastline from erosion, but the breaking waves will then be forced back out to sea, where they will break the next wave that's coming in, and it will reduce the power of that wave. Rock armour, again you'll see this all around the coast of Ireland, are basically massive big boulders that are placed along the coast, and you can see here that they're being placed by this piece of machinery. They have to be big enough so that they can't be removed by storm waves. So there's no point putting rock armour here. If there's a storm and those storm waves can pick them up, then they will fling them against the coast in the erosive process of abrasion, and they might even cause more damage. So they have to be big enough that they cannot be removed by high energy waves. Also, they tend to have gaps in them, and this allows the water to seep through, and that also reduces the power of the waves. So again, good example of rock armour. You'll see this all over the coast. The size of it is important, so it's not removed and used in the process of abrasion. Now this last one here, these are called gabions, and I think you can see them down in here. And what gabions are is that they are cages of small stones. Okay, very, very cruel to keep stones in cages. Free the rocks. Okay, but the purpose of those is when the wave breaks against them, the wave has to seep through all of this here. Okay, so therefore it has no power. They're normally placed in front of sand dunes or at the very back of beaches. So they break the power of the waves because the wave has to filter through all of the rocks before it goes back out again. They're not great long term because this mesh wire often breaks apart and opens up, and they're just not that pretty to look at the beach in terms of coastal environments. So they tend to be a short stopgap solution. Next one then, in terms of the hard methods, are breakwaters, and these are basically man-made bars off the shore, and their purpose is to make the wave break further out. So you've got the waves coming in, it hits this, it's going to break here, so it's not going to break at the coast. If it breaks at the coast, then it could cause erosion. The other thing that happens is that wave refraction occurs. So the wave might bend towards these things here, and as they bend, and you can see it really clearly here, lower energy waves then go back in behind it and they start to deposit material. So the breakwaters have two roles. First of all, they break the waves further away from the shore, therefore reducing the power of the waves. And secondly, because of wave refraction, they may encourage deposition to happen behind the breakwater. They're planning to use these at Courtown Beach in County Wexford. I think it's going to cost them upwards of 10 million. Very expensive, but they're a good long-term solution. Right, that is pretty much a summary of all of the hard and soft methods. So you need to go and have a read through the booklets from page 40 to 42, and then I want you to try the exercises on page 45 to 48, and I'm just going to flick through those in colour now. So this is the one on page 45, and again you can pause this and do them, but they might be hard to make out in your booklets. This is the colour version of page 46, I think. Yep. Page 47 and page 48. So if you can fill the answers to those questions in your booklets, and I will get the answers to them on here tomorrow night. So if you could do that like by kind of end of school day tomorrow, 4 o'clock tomorrow, that would be superb. Okay, I'll leave it at that.